this was one of my favorite memories because I didn't believe it could happen. Because you know, sometimes when you shoot a campaign, you can, how can I say, you can decide that you have 3 models and one is in London, one is in LA, one is in New York, and you shoot the campaign, and after you put by Photoshop, with Photoshop you can join all of them together. But I was like, no, please, this campaign, I want to have that emotion, you know, the emotion that I'm sure like Peter Lindbergh had at a time. When you remember this campaign, this photo shoot when they were all in the street, like all the top model of the 90s, or I would say, you know, like when Gianni Versace was hugging them and there were like 10 of them. So I was just like, what feels to be part of this moment, you know, and I wanted to make it happen, and I was dreaming of it, and I was like, please, I don't want to do a digital campaign. I want to actually like feel the emotion. So it happened. They answered, 3 of them say yes. So I was just like, that's so great. The first one that arrived was Claudia, and after Cindy, and after Naomi. And I remember like, I was so shy. I was just like, hi, my name is Olivier, and Claudia is like, yes, I know. And she's like, thank you so much for the honor to be part of this campaign. And I was like, no, I thank you. I mean, like, you don't understand like what, I mean, you've always been my dream. And she's like, you know, I really love your work, and I think you're doing such a great job, and I'm so proud to be part of this moment. And it's been a while that I didn't shoot any campaign, and I feel like it's so good to finally meet each other. And I was like, okay, so this is more than a dream. It's actually like the woman that inspired me to be in fashion, to love the casting, to love models, tells me that.
I was very surprised because I was walking in as a massive fan, and there he was coming towards me saying he is a massive fan of me. Like, no, you got it the wrong way around. I'm the massive fan. And yeah, so it's exciting to meet him, and he is the new star of the fashion world today. And he reminds me very much of the legendary designers that I grew up with in my career, which means they used to be you know, great personality meets great talent. First of all, I'm a mother, and then second of all, a businesswoman. So it really has to be something special for me to want to do modeling. Following his collections, I thought I would love to meet Olivier. I'd already been wearing his clothes a lot, so I've been a huge fan. His clothes are very recognizable. They're a cross between, you know, glamour, elegance, but modern edge. So I said yes immediately. Well, the shooting was in New York, and it was one Sunday morning in Queens, in a very small, private, discreet studio. It was raining. I don't see them very much anymore because we all sort of have our own world and family and work. But when we do see each other, it's every time like a high school reunion. We had our hair and makeup done. We talked about our families and exchanged stories of our children. For example, Stephen Klein, who is the photographer, who is one of the most amazing photographers in the world, and who you can, by the way, you can trust, because everything he does is just, you look amazing.
So after I met Cindy, that flew from LA, and the same, like we start to have such a great connection, and he was just so strong and so powerful. I was just like, I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it, because you made me love fashion. You know, like when you opened the magazine of the 90s, I remember like covers of Vogue with Cindy, with Claudia, with Naomi, like all together, or just something that was woman that you could understand in a way, because fashion was more, I would say, not pop, because I think pop maybe is the right word, I don't know. I would say more inclusive in a way, because those women were not talking only to fashion, they were talking to my mom, to my cousin, to, you know, like to me. Like, I mean, it's just like they had something that people could refer to, and that was the beauty of fashion at the time, because they were like women that you want to be, you know, and as well because they have really strong personalities, and at that time I remember like a model could there was a lot of stories about the girls, and the career was longer as well. And I think that's what we are missing in a way, because they build a career that makes sure that we can call them top model. And that's why I wanted to bring back that kind of atmosphere. So we start the shoot super early, and you know, usually when you do a photo shoot, you have to shoot 3-4 pictures. I mean, the first time in my life that they were saying, no, shoot a lot. I mean, we are here, so better to have more choices. And they knew themselves so much. So in a way, like, they were changing position, they knew their bodies so much, and they were actually like kind of guiding Stephen Klein, which is one of the best photographers of the world, but they know them so much, and they knew exactly the position that they want to bring. And when you sit next to Cindy, Claudia, and Naomi, it's kind of like, okay, pressure is on. But that's funny because after I think 2 hours, I was not shy anymore. I was just like, I'm so proud, I'm so happy to be part of this moment, and I don't want that being shy kind of blocks me to discover more them and to actually talk to them more. And they told me like how 90s was, because they were explaining me that there were a lot of photo shoots actually where sometimes they were like rebuilding the picture instead of just being the picture. They were rebuilding from Photoshop and stuff. So it was interesting to know that, but I'm like, I don't want that. And after like when Cindy, Claudia, and Naomi arrived all together against this white wall, I remember like that was really iconic because they were like, what should we do? And I was just like, I don't know, you know better than me. And at one point they're like, no, let's do like before. I mean, we have done that so many times, all three together. So let's do it like what we were feeling before. And it came so genuinely, naturally. And what I loved the most about this campaign was as well the kindness of all of them. And it's important to mention, you know, because it's not guaranteed that you have a photo shoot with models and they are as nice as them. After I remember this picture when Claudia grabbed Naomi and there was that kind of tension, but the idea that tension between them two, but at the same time this love together was pretty iconic. After, you know, they had to take a flight, so I think we finished the photo shoot around 6 or 7 p.m. They had to flew again to their countries or their cities. Naomi stayed a bit longer to shoot with her as well. And I love at one point this picture of Naomi when it was so calm and she started to breathe. And so there was not anymore like, you know, that kind of like fashion pose. It was just like a statue. And after this photo shoot, you understand why we call them top model. Because it's beyond their beauty. It's the charisma, I think. One of my favorite memories was definitely when I went to the Met Gala with Cindy Crawford, because I was her date and I was really happy, I was really proud. So beautiful, because we spoke about Kaya, I remember, and she said like, I'm so proud of my daughter, and I'm so proud of all my family, and I was just like, Kaya is so beautiful, I remember, and she was like, yeah, she's really young, but she's gonna model at a time, and it happened, and I was really proud when I started seeing Kaya. Yeah, it was iconic, this Met Gala. We danced all night. I remember we get a shot of tequila together, and I was like on another cloud 7, like how we say, like cloud number 9. The dress was like fitting her perfectly, and the gesture on the red carpet, she was just like so majestic, you know. But at the same time, this is the Cindy Crawford that you see, and you know, but the Cindy Crawford that I discovered was like such a funny person. Like, I'm just had fun all night. Like, and I remember it was the time where we had Kim and Kanye and Kylie, and so we built like a really good group with Dawson, with Jordan. Like, it became like a huge group of fun, but as well, you know, diverse, because everybody was so different. Shano Pry, Kylie, like we connect all together. Yeah, Cindy was, I have to say, she was a bit stressed on the red carpet. Huh? Everybody is scared of this red carpet. It's so long. It's so long. Hi Cindy, I have 3 questions for you. My first question is, what did you feel when we shot the campaign together?
Bonjour, Olivier. Hope you're doing well in your isolation like the rest of us. So I'm going to answer your questions. I think the first one was about the photo shoot we did together with Claudia and Naomi and you with Stephen Klein in New York a few years ago. And I love being part of that shoot. I think first and foremost, working with you and your creative vision, but also reconnecting with Naomi and Claudia. That was great. And just being on set again and working with Stephen Klein and falling into that rhythm. I think we were all so much on the same page that day about what the images should be. So thank you for having me.
My second question is, what did you feel when we went to the Met Gala together? Actually, did you like having me as a date?
How was it having you as my date for the Met Gala? You were the perfect date for the Met Gala. First of all, I love my dress. I remember during the fitting, I actually was in Rome and the dress came to Rome for the final fitting and I just fell in love with it. I think that the theme that year, maybe it was like something about modern or something. And I loved that it was very Balmain, but it had like a clean line. And I loved the reflection of the kind of cut glass pieces. Although I have to say it was not the most comfortable dress I ever wore because I could not bend my arms. But I loved being your date. You were such a gentleman. You picked me up at my hotel and we had a great time. And you had a great group of people at your table. So I love that night.
My third question is, what do you like about Balmain and all my creations?
I feel that as a model, you definitely learn to appreciate clothes that are made for a woman's body, great tailoring, great fabrics, great style. And I feel like you are one of those designers that really embraces a woman and a woman's bodies, which, I've never been a stick. And so I feel great wearing your clothes. But I also have really come to know you as a person. I love your story. And so you've got the whole package. Okay, sending love, bye.
Another great memory is when Claudia came to see my show. I have to say, I was so touched by the words that she mentioned, that she said to me after my fashion show in Hotel Opéra Garnier, in Paris. She arrived with her marinière, like a kind of Brigitte Bardot look. And she hugged me, grabbed me and say, "You're a genius." And I don't tell you that for pretension or arrogance. I just tell you that because, when you love someone and you respect someone so much and you hear that, it's kind of give you so much strength. I wish sometimes fashion could go back to that kind of moment. When everything is just about respect and love and you respect my work, I respect your work, I respect your career, you respect my creations, and something sometimes smoother, more fluid, more natural. I think the beauty of fashion is when there is an emotion that is not controlled. That's where everything becomes more epic and magic, and sometimes you don't even know that it's gonna be so magic or iconic. You need to take some time. It can take years, it can take weeks, it can take months, it can take a century to know that what you did at that time will become iconic. And I wish sometimes we go back to that kind of emotion because I think it's important to feel it and to feel in your heart. Hi guys, we are on YouTube and I hope you liked it. So please make sure that you subscribe, you like, you comment, just interaction between us. It's quarantine, so we just need to exchange more and more together. And I hope you like the second episode of our Balmain Ensemble and I cannot wait for the third.